questions. Okay, started. That's good. Right. Nice. Hello, all, and thank you very much for joining. And please have your first name and last name as you join in the meeting, Zoom meeting link. So it will help us to connect and also help us speakers to connect with you and who is the person interacting with this. By the way, this session is getting recorded, so will be available shortly through one of our Cloud Native Summit YouTube channel, and also you should be able to find in the CNCF repository somewhere, and I'll share those links towards the end of the session. And welcome all. It's 2024, and it's too late to wish you all Happy New Year, but this is the very first meetup session that we are holding for 2024. And on behalf of Chris Mazur and Cloud Native Summit, and also the Cloud Native Wellington group, we would like to welcome you all for this session. And a slow start for this year, but we have lined up some amazing talks and some great demos and presentation from various community members over this year. So please watch out the space, and it's an opportunity for us to share, care, learn, and grow together. And there are 2 links for you to join the meetup. I would highly recommend you join through the community.cncf.io link. So you can see the link there, which is /Wellington. We still maintain the meetup.com, but for information, most of the CNCF meetup community groups have migrated to community.cncf.io. So that's for information. So let's move on to the next slide. And we have proud sponsors today. Thank you very much for Cloud Native Summit, who's supporting us from the inception days, and also the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, CNCF. And thank you very much for CloudBees for joining us and helping us with this presentation in the meetup, and also the PAC Publishing, and who are our community sponsor for today. And myself and Chris Mazur, we are the Cloud Native New Zealand and community groups and meetup groups, and also the Cloud Native Summit Australia and New Zealand organizers. And myself, I'm BMK. I'm a transformation architect with Section 6. I'm a CNCF and DevOps Institute ambassador for New Zealand. And Chris Mazur, a very good friend of mine and open source enthusiast. And also last year, he was inducted into CNCF ambassador. So we have 2 ambassadors out of New Zealand now. Thank you very much, Chris, for helping me with this. And we have 2 great sessions today, where I've been a great fan of these 2 folks for a long time. And Andreas, who's a chief architect based out of Sydney, CTO organization at Red Hat, and Ahilan Poonusamy, new to Australia, but very good friend of mine over the year. Have seen amazing demos and presentation from Ahilan, and these 2 brains have come together and created something amazing, technology operating models for cloud and edge. So this is the book they wrote and they published last year, and this particular presentation is for us to help us to give them the speakers, the authors, to give us actually an opportunity to understand what is this book about, and how did they come up with this idea, and for who this book is targeted towards, and what we could take away from this. And I'm going to hand over to this book. And before that, there are some giveaways for you. There are 5 books we are giving away. This technology operating model for cloud and edge book we are giving away. 2 of them are printed copies, so Pact will take care of shipping to you directly. And 3 books are ebooks. So by the way, how do you win this book? Ask any amazing question in the chat, or please print across or write about the meetup and what did you learn in a LinkedIn post or on Twitter or in a social media. And then we will select actually the winners, and then we will let you know. And that is one of the reasons why I was asking to have your full name there. So by the way, then we know whom we need to reach out to. Now it's over to Andreas and Ahilan, both of you. Welcome to the CNCF Meetup 2024. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, BMK. Hey, can you enable sharing for attendees, because I'm not able to share my screen?
Chris, if you can just make Andreas as a host, please. Okay, you are a host, Andreas, now.
Very good. I feel so special. All right, let's get that Chrome tab shared and move into slideshow. Let me know when it's coming up. Can you see that?
Yes, Andreas.
Awesome, thank you, Ahilan. So, yeah, we like what BMK just said. We actually got a extra 25% discount just for this event. So if you log on to the PAC website from Australia and New Zealand, then only you gonna get 25% off. So thanks BMK for making that happen, and thanks to PAC. So now to get started, right, we're gonna play it back and forth between Ahilan and myself. So the question is like, why does the world need another book with all those books already written, right? So we had Shakespeare and then we had Ahilan and myself. So why do we need that book? And I'm going to take you a little bit on a journey now. So how this content has actually been developed over the time. We basically had a lot of client conversations. So Ahilan and myself, right, we are client facing, and even though I moved now into engineering, I was 8 years in the making, basically as a chief architect, talking to a lot of organizations, and I covered public sector, I covered banks, FSI, insurances, and telcos as well, which is very interesting. And through those client conversations, I always had the feeling there's a bit of a pattern, right? And then you have those secret chats with friends, the managing directors of large consulting firms, right? You have a beer with them, and then they kind of talk Tacheles, as we say in German, and so they basically also confirmed my suspicion, so to speak, that it's not all as hunky-dory as we often see in the news, right? Because you only get presented really the success stories that are often sponsored by vendors, and even though we're working for vendors as well, I think it's very important for our clients to be aware of pitfalls and the truth really, and the challenges, because that's what and how we learn. Then I ran workshops at the Gartner CIO Summit. I had several years in a row where we talked to other executives like CIOs and CTOs and head of IT about cloud computing in general. And this has a bit of a cloud spin, obviously, but Edge is just as relevant for those conversations. And then I compared notes with Ahilan, as you will see in a few slides. Ahilan has a very different path to being here than I have. And it's really about collecting company logos and experiences those company logos brought with us. And then I finally ran a global workshop with the Red Hat Chiefs team. So back then we were about like 30, 40 people across the globe. And our job is to really work with the executives and help them achieve what they are set out to achieve. And on the bottom right corner, you now see an example page of a cloud strategy, which is now 2024 paper. And so we really worked with those executives and wanted to understand what is the goal, right, that you're trying to achieve with your cloud strategy, right? And things would come out: faster time to market, enable self-service infrastructure, reduce complexity. And so this is how we found those patterns. And across the globe, through this workshop, we found out that those patterns across the globe are actually the same, no matter which jurisdiction, which country, which geographic you live in and work in, and whether you're globally distributed or whether you're really just in country. But at the end of the day, we then took those goals, we put strategies around that, and strategies have nothing to do with vendors, right? It's more approaches that companies need to take or wanted to take. For example, enabling agile delivery, or enable self-service, or implement DevSecOps capabilities and things like that. And then we took risks to those approaches, and those risks were compiled based on those projects and implementations we took over the last 7-8 years. And then tactics is then where Red Hat would come in and help them. So just to give you a bit of a view of how we achieved that kind of path, and why we thought it's worthwhile putting another book out there, really just out of trying to help identify those patterns and helping our customers. So Ahilan, what's your view?
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. Just like Andreas said, one thing we observed was the problems are typically the same across the industries, but the manifestation is different. So most of the time when we go to customers, they say, we operate slightly differently. Our challenges are unique. But if you go underneath the covers, most often you will find that the problems are common. It doesn't matter what industry they are in, what jurisdiction they are representing, so on and so forth. And also when they are building architectures to address these challenges or manifestation, as I mentioned, typically those decisions are not well represented across the teams that are being part of the ecosystem. So how do you come up with an approach that helps organizations to identify the problems, not just the manifestation, and come up with an approach that is well represented, well included, and well participated? So they have a comprehensive roadmap to address these problems, and also the manifestation that is resulting as part of the problem is the goal that we have addressed in the book. Yeah, so it's, just to start with the why then, right? So if you look at it, we are already in that age of public cloud adoption, and there are a lot of different manifestations of it coming from, okay, public cloud is my end state goal. No, hybrid cloud is my new state. I want to bring some workloads back to on-premise. So there are a lot of different ways customers are going through the journey, or organizations are going through the journey. But in reality, these decisions are mostly reactive. So there is actually a decision or a goal defined at an executive level. Say, I want to move my data center. I want to exit my data center in X number of days, X number of months, and then move all the workload. But if you really look at based on your experience, I would be confident in saying that more than 50%, close to 80% in our observation, those decisions have not materialized successfully. The reason for that is, as I mentioned before, those decisions are not based on the ground reality, the facts, and the complexity involved. And typically that is resume driven decisions in certain cases, or some decisions based on the fanboy fangirl culture, like Andreas mentioned here. And one of the other things we are observing is cost of adoption and cost of operations are also significantly higher when you make those decisions without proper data or proper foundations, right? And that also adds more complexity as we are looking at more and more edge deployments. And now Gen AI has taken center stage as well. So imagine making a decision of putting your data and putting your applications on one particular landing zone, but then realizing within 2 years, now my data and my application and the way the applications are going to be delivered is going to be drastically different 1 year or 2 years from now, thanks to edge and AI. Then that also adds additional complexity. Andreas, what do you see in the field based on this
Yeah,
insights?
yeah. So as you said, right? So we'll sort of distill those reasons, and yeah, the most commonly we found actually answers to what's your cloud strategy, or it's hyperscaler A or hyperscaler B, and we go like, wow, that can't be a cloud strategy, right? It's basically a tool, but what are the goals? And that's why we basically started with those those goals that I mentioned earlier in the strategy slide, and so would be keen to get your view on anything I missed, right? So what's your experience in terms of cloud strategy, right? What have you seen that we haven't mentioned here that didn't pan out the way you wanted it, or the idea it was presented, that the idea that was presented with cloud computing in the beginning, which didn't materialize. Would be keen to get your view as well. So, and then as Ahilan just said, just a quick transition slide, right? And then add 100 grams of edge to the cloud. We know that that edge is becoming more and more pervasive. Depends on different industries. Obviously, 5G and RAN in telco has been around for forever, and they call it edge computing. But there's also manufacturing, obviously, industrial automation. So it's basically becoming more and more important to have a platform approach, in our view, or an operating model view that covers from here enterprise core all the way out to device edge to make this manageable and automatable. And then, so before we go into the how, I want to also quickly cover who was involved in writing this book. So at the end of the day, there is only Ahilan and I, right? But we didn't want to make this an Ahilan and Andreas show. We really wanted to distill, exactly as I said earlier, that industry knowledge from across the globe into this book. And even though we have a rich set of companies and experiences that we worked in, we wanted to really extend this and do a litmus test. And so what we had, and why I think that this book has some credibility, is because we actually reached out to people from the industry, fairly senior executives like Catherine Squire, for example. She was at Nasdaq and ASX, right, top FSI brands across the globe. Guillaume is the director of product development at Optus. John Heaton is CTO of Alex Bank. So as you can see, high-level executives, right, from different industries already. Then Tenna, for example, is the head of IT for HR and people systems at Woolworth. So they bring retail experience to that lens. And then we have Sharad and Niraj that bring then the data aspect and vendor lens to it as well. And I think that compilation really gives a strong foundation for the credibility in that book. And then on top of that, we have also asked people from the industry to write forwards and actually proofread the entire content that the technical reviewers already reviewed, and then gave us their honest opinion. So there's Mirko Herring. He's the managing director and global DevOps lead at Accenture. Then Nathan Chopra, who is the chief digital and information officer at Indigo Airlines. That's the largest by passenger airline in India. And India has currently, I think, 1.5 billion people, right? So they know how scale looks like from a systems perspective. And then Vincent, which is the CTO of APAC at Red Hat, also been CTO of Bank of Singapore and other stints. So that's kind of hopefully giving you a bit of a lens. Ahilan, did you want to add something to this slide?
Yeah, so just like Andreas mentioned, we wanted to make sure the book is well represented, not only from the technology perspective, as well as the customer's perspective from diverse industries. That's why we actually handpicked those executives to be part of the journey. And we had an amazing journey as well, because they were not shy from giving their honest feedback and opinions. And we incorporated their viewpoints as part of building the operating model and the templates that comes along with it. We'll be covering some of that later in the presentation. But just to summarize, overall, it is a well-represented community when it comes to delivering or creating this book for you. And something I want to focus on as well as part of this discussion is, so what are the top challenges that we want to address, right? So as I mentioned earlier, the manifestations could be different, but the problems are the same. So some of the reasons why we thought those kind of things are again coming as part of the enterprise way in delivering technology is actually lack of ownership, right? Because if you really look at it as the representation and the participation defines the success of any operating model, be it technology or non-technology. But in most of the times when the technical decisions are made, when the technology operating models are put together, it is put together only by few people who may not have the holistic understanding and participation from other parties that are need to be on the table from day one. So there is a lack of ownership and the ivory tower mindset, where three people go and kind of build it out on their own, then try to roll it out and then accommodate or include additional viewpoints later down the line, which has not been successful based on our understanding. And also from the frameworks perspective, typically there is no standard approach or framework followed. So what we are bringing in as part of the book is leveraging some of the tools and techniques that are part of open practice library to bring in as part of the inclusive and participated nature of the workshops to build out the operating model. So we have a template, we have certain exercises, we are using certain tools as part of open practice library for you to follow when you actually build out the operating model. And then from the functional models perspective, it is not only the technology model, it also has to include the business model as well, because at the end of the day, the main purpose of the technology operating model is to enable business to make it more successful, to compete better, to make their customer experience improve, right? These are the three main objectives any business models have. And how do you tie the business model with the technology model is the focus area as well. And then by doing that, and we're participating the workshop across multiple stakeholders, making it an inclusive and collaborative environment, we are also seeking for fast feedback loops that actually improves the overall efficiency and overall success of the entire model. Andreas, anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So as you can see here on the right-hand side, this is a bit of a dashboard, right? And we're going to cover the how now in the subsequent slides. But, we have operating model streams, like which is leadership in enterprise architecture, platform, tenant experience, product and services. You don't have to take those, but those are usually the most common we observed. And then the dimensions of this operating model are then underneath, like customer, architecture, things like this, right? And in terms of open practices, we always found that everybody harps on about culture, right? And culture is so important, but then there's very little understanding of how you actually create that culture. And we used Ron Westerum's research on organizational cultures and basically translated that into the open practice library methodologies that we're using. And that's a open practices, and open practice library is a compilation of proven methodologies that we've used over the years. So now let's talk about the approach. I just walked you through the overall dashboard, and that's basically representing what I've showing here. So the overall thing is called the operating model, technology operating model, and then we have the operating model streams, which you've seen, like tenant experience and workloads and enterprise architecture and leadership. And then the operating model dimensions, like here, leadership and architecture, customer, for example, or platform and tenant experience, which is what PTE stands for as platform, and then applications and workload, which the AW stands for workload portability. And this is all customizable. We're going to run you through a template that you can use free of charge to inspect. And then the dimension items are basically then where we deep dive into each dimension and find out what are actually the things that we need to consider to work out with our operating model. And interestingly enough, we've given that now a few of our customers, and based on that, they actually want to engage on that and implement that in some respects, right? So again, this is just a dashboard where we have those are the streams: leadership and enterprise architecture, and then the dimensions: architecture, roles and responsibilities, feedback loops, metrics, culture. As you can see, each stream has different focus areas, right? So compliance, data, metrics, and culture here, and then you go down to the platform and tenant experience, and then it's about the platform itself, the onboarding, the networking, storage, and then it gets more and more technical. And I think in a lot of organizations, a lot of wastage is produced because you don't have this clear delinearization of what does the platform team look after, what does platform team actually mean, what does platform engineering mean, and what does the products and service team look after, how does DevOps or DevSecOps work. And that's also a problem we tried to tackle in chapter 1 already, where we have a lot of buzzwords in our industries, but you have 5 people in the room and you have 6 different interpretations of that. And that's why we focus on those open practices and also the communication. If you don't establish a common vocabulary on specific items, then it's very hard to actually get an operating model worked out, right? And then Ahilan, did you want to walk us through the sort of steps that we outlined for organizations to get there?
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. Just like how Andreas mentioned, there is a sequential process that we have recommended as part of the book. So it starts with defining the streams. For this example, we also have published a case study, a simulated case study as part of the book for you to follow and understand how it can be done. And that vision starts with defining the streams. Like Andreas mentioned, the 3 streams that we have included are leadership and architecture, platform and tenant experience, product and services. Under each streams, You identify stakeholders. Sometimes you have overlapping stakeholders or independent stakeholder teams across these work streams. And once you have the stakeholders identified, you get into an exercise or workshop where for each streams you define some dimensions. And under the dimensions, you follow a similar process to define the items that goes into each dimension. So with that, you have a comprehensive tree structure, if you will, under streams, multiple dimensions, and under multiple dimensions, multiple items that you want to focus. And there will be some dependencies as well. So you may have dependencies identified from item that is under a dimension A, under stream A, with dimension B, and item under dimension B under stream B as well. So those kind of interactions and dependencies will also be identified. Once you identify that, you also scope the dimensions where you will define, okay, this is the current state of this particular item. And from this state, and what is my target state? And in order for me to get to the target state, are there any independent internal or staged dimensions or stages that I need to meet before I get to the target dimension, right? So you have those level of details captured as well as part of scoping and detailing, which is actually the next stage. And once you do that, you have that first iteration of your operating model defined across your streams, your dimensions, items, interdependencies captured, and also the states created. And once you do that, it is not one-time exercise. You periodically review and iterate upon to reflect the current state of the implementation and also evolving business goals, right? Because at the end of the day, as I mentioned before, you need to have both that viewpoints captured. So just to summarize, it is about defining the streams, dimension under the streams, capturing items together, and also coming up with the target state and the current state, and mapping multiple states as required in between before you can achieve the target state architecture. Andreas, anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Ahilan. So I want to wrap the answer to the great question Ying posted in there. Could you give us an example of how open practices and team topologies have been successfully applied in a cloud or edge environment? So it's a great question. I love it. The process that Ahilan just walked through is all about ownership, right? So I worked on projects where we would sit in our ivory tower in a big bank and we would like plan this all out, right? And then basically hope for adoption. But the open practices is actually all about creating those teams and involving people. And even though some organizations or some leaders might think like, that's kind of hard involving so many people. It might feel like it's harder, or takes longer, but you have those crucial conversations actually in the beginning, and you get also the buy-in. And it's not a democracy per se, right? But you get a lot of you get a lot of inputs, and also it establishes a trust that people are heard, right? And this ownership is really what drives that operating model forward. And so open practices, for example, are definition of done or a social contract. And a social contract is very powerful. It's basically the team itself says what they want to, what behaviors they want to encourage, like be on time, be respectful, let people finish. And then you sign that as a team. Every team member signs this. And that empowers teams because it allows the team to hold others accountable to those standards. So if I'm always late, right, then they can say, Andreas, you signed this. We said be on time, but you're always 5 minutes late. We expect you to be on time from now on forwards, right? This is a very powerful open practice. And then team topologies is very powerful because it defines specific team missions, right? So you have the platform team, you have the stream aligned team, which are the product teams, but you also have a complicated subsystems team, for example. And then you can basically leverage those concepts that are already pre-existing, and they're also attached with specific ways of interacting with those teams. And that takes a lot of trial and error out. You basically establish those teams. If Ahilan and I are experts in insurance underwriting, then we would probably be part of this complicated subsystem teams, because this is a very intrinsic knowledge-based kind of output team, right? And so the interaction modes with that team would already pre-defined, whereas the platform team has many customers, they need different interactions, or team APIs as that is called often. Does that answer your question, Ying? Let me know in the chat if it doesn't. So let's move on. The case study. Ahilan, do you want to run us quickly through that case study?
Yes, yes. So as I mentioned before, as part of the book, rather than just defining the template and bringing up the model, we also wanted to bring in a simulated use case or a case study. So we have taken a multinational insurance company based out of North America, acquiring some businesses in Europe and going through a re-platforming exercise or building the next generational application platform as our case study. And as part of the case study, we go through all the tools and techniques. We have created a simulated team who has actually owned that and execute it end to end. So this diagram that you see here is actually a logical representation of what they are trying to achieve. So the platform name or a program name is called Resurgence Platform, and it is built on a hybrid cloud architecture managed by platform team. And there are some cross-cutting functionalities and vision they have to achieve for security compliance automation that is included. And it is also going to be leveraged by developers, implementation partners, and also third-party workloads that run on top of it. So this is a very high level of view that we will be covering as part of the case study in the book. And the process or the approach we have covered that is going through the exercise, leveraging the tools and techniques from open practice library that we are recommending for you. And the template that you see on the GitHub repository that Andreas will be highlighting in next will actually have the data that is captured as part of this simulated case study. So you'll be able to refer what we have discussed in the book in the template to cross verify and also use that as a foundation when you build your own model. Anything else you would like to add, Andreas?
No, it's great. So we basically tried to eat our own dog food, right? So what we did, we established the operating model approach, and then we went through that exercise ourselves, and we anonymized a client case study to do that. BMK, how much more time do we have? It's 10:35 now. Just don't want to take the cloud bees time away.
Yeah, we can if we can just wrap up in the next 5 minutes, that would be great.
Okay, awesome. All right, we'll do that. Okay, then let's jump straight into the demo. So this is the GitHub repo where you get access to all the assets yourself. It also has quick summaries of each chapter. Let me just quickly jump into the template that Ahilan just mentioned. So this is available through the GitHub repo for you, and so this is really how it looks like. We obviously don't win any design awards with our coloring schemes, but that's not the point anyway. So you see here the streams that I mentioned earlier, the operating model streams, and it's all calculating it's a progression really automatically. But then this is a bit of a definition of done, or what the statuses are specifically with those percentages, and then you just go through those different streams, right? So you saw that in the dashboard. That's exactly that, like customer, partner, competitor, architecture. You define what that means for your organization, and you don't do this in an ivory tower. You do it with the team, so everybody's on board and everybody knows what you're talking about. You establish a common sense and a common language, and then in those different dimensions, for example, LA customer means like the leadership and architecture stream and customer. Then you determine what are the actually line items on those specific dimensions, right? So the has, for example, consistent user interface, and then you can determine the start state, where are we at today, what's the current state, what nodes are important, and then what are the iterations that you want to achieve, right? So the more iteration, the more complex it gets, obviously. But then you can also have only one iteration, or you say, hey, we achieved already target state, and that's then where we end up, right? But this is how you actually use the template, and then you put your percentage complete in there, and that'll then automatically update the bar chart and roll all the way up to the overall operating model dashboard. We're currently doing that with a client as a pre-transformation project, a kickoff, because we want to establish actually this common understanding and also establish those guiding principles, right, for all the teams, so that you don't have to revisit what storage are we, what databases for unstructured document, what databases for RDBMS do you need, how do we integrate with Exadata and all this. This is all kind of done as part of this operating model exercise, and we go from there. So you can take a screenshot of that open practice library, the template, the GitHub repo. You can also raise issues. Please raise issues on the GitHub repo. If you read the book, you go through the process, you have any issues you want covered in the next edition, more than happy to do that. And also feel free, obviously, to reach out to us, right, if you need any help with kickstarting things and things like this. We won't have time to go through advanced concepts, but this is just other things that we cover, like organizational life cycles. What's the difference between enterprise, brand, business model? You know, that's kind of important if you developing your operating model. How does it work in multi-jurisdictional organizations where you have different entities that can actually define the operating model themselves? And we added a meta model for like in alignment with TOGAF meta models. And then we covered anti-fragile, which I think is very important. And anti-fragile means things are getting stronger through stressors. So sorry for running really quickly through. There's a lot in there. Keen to get your feedback. Let me know if you have any questions. Please reach out. And before I go and turn off, I would also get Ahilan's last words, please, if that's okay. Today.
Thank you, Andreas. I just want to close with an example where we have applied this before, right? This is again based on insurance customer in North America. So they always had this problem of their releases getting delayed by 3 to 6 months on every release. And then when we did this workshop for them, we realized that the main reason for that is the customers are brought into the acceptance testing very late in the cycle. And the main reason for that is the internal security and compliance standards where certain data cannot be exposed to the customers. By addressing the security and compliance challenges by database encryption and other technical tools, along with bringing the customer feedback loop as part of the development process, they were able to magically change the release cycle efficiency or address the challenge around the release cycle efficiency within 1 year. So doing this collaborative exercise, identifying where the challenges are, and then building a model that actually addresses those challenges as part of the same approach where their current state is there are certain reasons why they couldn't do the user acceptance testing early on, and then defining the target state and then coming up with the iteration states or transition states, if you will, to address that challenge. They were able to address that within a year. So this is one example, but you can see how these kind of approaches can be applied to multiple challenges, be it a very tactical challenge or at a level where you are defining the entire operating model. But the way you approach it, the way you deliver it, the way you track it can be the same. So all those challenges, all those issues can all be addressed together following the same model. That is one good thing that comes out of following a standardized approach for your operating model, be it technology, business, or both together. Andreas, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ahilan. And this is just, book your workshop. So Ahilan and I we are available to run free workshops for organizations that want to engage in that. But everything is out there, right? It's all open source, the template, the open practice library. So you don't have to engage with us if you want to try this out yourself. But if you need some help, Ahilan and I are always happy to engage, right? And BMK, with that, thank you so much for having us. Thanks everybody for listening in, and back over to you, BMK.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andreas, Ahilan. And this is an amazing, how much of work has gone in, and also coming up with the reference in a model with a simulation of an organization of an insurance provider. Thank you very much for that. And folks, if you're before reading the book, if you would like to read the review of the book, please head to bmk.nz, where I wrote actually a book review on their book. It's on my blog. And once again, thank you very much, both of you, for joining from Australia. And please hang around for some more time. And now, I would like to welcome Sitaram Param, Vice President and General Manager for Cloud-Based Product, and a short, quick demo on the new cloud-based DevSecOps platform. And I had an opportunity earlier towards the end of last year to log in and to just play around with this. And I was amazed to see this, like, how much things are evolving in this space, like, especially in the DevSecOps space. So I thought, like, I should bring this concept into the New Zealand meetup. So here we go. And over to Sitaram. Thanks very much, Sita, for joining from States.
Thank you, BMK. Hello, folks. I'm super glad to be here. And like BMK mentioned, I'm the VPGM here on one of the CloudBees platform, one feature, and I'm actually moving to be the VP of products for the entire CloudBees platform. Before I joined CloudBees, I started a company called Release IQ. It's in the DevOps platform space, and CloudBees acquired us like 1.5 years back. And before that, I was with VMware for like 10 years. So this physical to virtual to multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, and all that, I got an opportunity to work on that transition. So about CloudBees, right? So I'm sure some of you must be working with Jenkins. Jenkins is a very popular DevOps product. Before the term DevOps came in, the Jenkins was there, and I used almost in every company that I worked with to build, to deploy the services, applications, and all that. And then CloudBees delivered this enterprise, we call it CloudBees CI product. This is on top of the open source Jenkins. So we got like pretty much almost all the banks and big financial and government customers who are actually using Jenkins in production. They have us in their ecosystem. And as you guys know, Jenkins is one of the biggest ecosystem in the DevOps space. And we as a company contribute to that Jenkins open source big time. We own the infrastructure, we have our developers contributing to it and all that. And when we were talking to our customers, one thing that kept on coming is we are moving to this cloud. We are in this app modernization journey. And yes, we were using Jenkins when our applications were in the inside our network on-prem. Now we are moving to cloud. We need cloud native solution for setting up this CI/CD pipelines. So we heard that enough, and then what CloudBees did is it acquired a bunch of companies in the last few years. My company, Release IQ, GuideRail, there's a company called Rollout. It's all cloud native application products in the DevOps space. So they acquired everything, but they didn't just publish that as the CloudBees product. What they did is they spent time to basically redesign. They took the use cases from all these products. We just redesigned the whole thing using the latest and greatest technologies that are available now. And we released this new SaaS platform last November. This platform is Tekton based. If you're aware of Tekton, it's a cloud native engine, workflow engine that Google sponsors. And the picture that you see here on the right hand side, that YAML is how you define the workflow to take the code from source control to all the way to production. And that is in like a GitHub action based YAML script. And we have all the VSM reports like productivity metrics, DORA metrics, and flow metrics, all kind of metrics on top of these two platforms. So can I share my screen, BMK?
Yep, you can. Thank you.
Anything else you want me to say before I start the demo?
No, all good. I just wanted to quickly, if you can touch on the recently launched platform, because I was amazed to see the Pipeline Explorer and then the highly availability and etc. So if you can just touch on those features, that will be great.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm not going to bore you guys with all these slides. So let me just jump into this one slide. Okay. So the CloudBees CI product, I talked about this. This is on top of Jenkins. This is our enterprise CI product. I would say this is one of the best CI product in the world, I would say, right? Number of plugins, we have literally 3,000, 4,000 plugins, and the scale is like one of our customer has 1.2 million jobs and pipelines that they run on their CBCI system. So it's pretty scalable and all. And recently, like BMK mentioned, we released HA feature on top of this. This is high availability feature so that those 1.2 million jobs can actually survive if the machine crash. And we also have this pipeline explorer to provide better usability and better visibility into Jenkins pipelines, right? So that's actually it's a very popular plugin that we recently created on top of this CloudBees CI. So we are getting almost 80 to 90% of our customers, existing customers, started adapting these new features within 2 quarters, right? It's never heard of. So we are very excited about it. I'm here to talk about this new platform, completely SaaS platform. As I mentioned, it's cloud native architecture. It's all microservices, Go based, and we deploy to Kubernetes. We deploy to AWS VPC. We use OpenSearch from AWS. And we have this microservices, which actually gets to production independently, right? So one of the biggest advantage in cloud native application is it's all stateless services. You can, of course, have a stateful services, but if you have stateless services in your applications, you can actually independently deploy these services from source control all the way to production. So that way, small changes can get to production continuously, right? Continuous delivery, continuous integration is there for years. Now in the cloud environment, the cloud native environment, this continuous delivery is becoming pretty popular. So to our platform now provides, if anybody develops cloud native applications, they can use the existing CBCI environment, which is optimized for the old school applications, legacy applications. There is nothing stops from people using this cloud BCI, even for cloud native application CI/CD. But it's pretty much optimized for the old school applications. But if it is a cloud native applications, then we have our own engine it's as part of this platform. It's Tecton based. It's again cloud native. So irrespective of whatever application you develop, we provide CI/CD, release orchestration, feature flags, all this capability on top of your existing cloud BCI, or you can use our native Tecton engine and provide all the other values, right? Higher order values of Pipeline Explorer, advanced analytics, and value stream metrics, while providing, again, security, compliance, and all that. So that means, what is the biggest challenge right now in the DevOps and platform team is software supply chain security. I'm sure you guys are hearing a lot of issues in that front, right? People inject some, problems into their application very easily by hacking into the software supply chain, the CI/CD pipeline, right? There are many names for that, but it's pretty much CI/CD pipeline. So we need to have a very, very secured software supply chain, CI/CD pipeline. So that's why, otherwise the companies can just use Jenkins, right? Why are they moving to CI? Because of security, the enterprise features and all that. The same way, though they develop cloud native applications, they really need to ensure the security and compliance. So we also have compliance features. Again, we acquired a company a couple of years back, and we took those compliance features and integrated with our platform. So it's a complete platform which can provide DevSecOps solution for any applications that you use. Did somebody ask a question? Okay. So we provide our platform in 3 different models. One is we have multi-tenant SaaS. You can go ahead and sign up today and try this. You can create pipelines and try how it works. And if you have a big enterprise and if you don't want to consume our multi-tenant, you can have a single tenant SaaS, which we will manage. The third option is if you don't want to use our managed solution, we can deploy this platform on your VPC and it will be managed mostly by you, by the customer, right? So these are all the 3 ways of installing our product. Because it's all Kubernetes based, it's possible to deploy on any VPC that the customer provides. Currently, we are starting with AWS, but we have plans to expand that to Azure and GCP. Now I'll jump into the demo. So this is our product, right? This is our production. So before I jump in, so we have this org hierarchy. What does that mean? Let's say you're part of a big enterprise and you have multiple business units. They develop on-prem applications, cloud native applications. So you basically create org, sub-org, and components. Org could be your finance business unit. Sub-org could be any applications that they develop. Component is associated with any repo that you have. So you go and create, this is the org settings. So you go and create orgs. And in this case, we have, as you can see here, org and sub-org and all that is created. Once you create this org and sub-org and component, next step is you create a workflow. Let's look at one of this, our demo workflows. So I'm now going to this BSM demo org, and I'm looking at component 2. And we already have some workflows. So I'm going to look at some of the workflows that we already have. And you can actually have the workflow as a code, or you can have as a, the UI. And this is already created workflow. In the interest of time, I'm just showing you the created workflow. Workflow contains job and a bunch of steps. So each job will run on one pod in our native Tecton engine. So what does that mean is you can have 5 jobs, then there will be 5 containers running, one at a time. But inside that container, you can have multiple steps which will run sequentially in that container. So each step, you can have an action. So if you're aware of GitHub Actions, this is exactly how it works in our platform too. So each step, you can use our out-of-the-box actions that we have, or you can actually create a pre-configured action. For example, let's say you have Jenkins and you want to interact with Jenkins, you can use our out-of-the-box Jenkins. But you want to, let's say BMK have a Jenkins machine, he doesn't want anybody to use the password or anybody to see the credential that he has for that BMK Jenkins, then he can create, I'll just tell you how to create. So go here, actions, and create actions, and use that Jenkins out-of-the-box action that we have, and then call, hey, this is the BMK Jenkins, and just to provide the URL, username, and password, and save it. So all the developers or DevOps folks who wants to use the BMK Jenkins action, they can just use it and invoke any pipeline that they have without BMK had to share the credential for those Jenkins. That's the idea behind it, right? So what I showed so far is pipeline, the workflow. We don't call it pipeline, we call it workflow, jobs and steps. Each job can have one or more steps. On each step, you can have a action out of the box actions or pre-configured action. In this case, for example, the second step, we used a sneak scan action, which is already out of the box, right? And then you provide input to that. And then in this case, it's calling Jenkins action to call some pipeline from outside Jenkins, right? So this, as I said, this platform can interact with any tool that you have in your ecosystem. So you just have to create an action for it, and it can execute that action as part of the step. So in this case, you build and then you are actually deploying this to some Kubernetes workspace, and this is the action you use for that. So if you create, so now what I'm showing is the extensibility of this composer. So you can pretty much create any workflow, because workflow is just a set of jobs and steps, and the steps can call any actions. We already have like 50 actions bundled with the platform. By default, you can use. If you have any other tool that we don't have actions for, you yourself can go and create those actions and use it. So think of this as very extensible the workflow engine. Okay, so now you have your workflow created. Then the next thing is the workflow gets executed. So you can see the run. So every time you commit to some repo, the workflow runs, and you can see the run details here. This is how, I'm sure if you use CI/CD tool, most of the tool works like that. You can see all the steps, details, whether it passed, failed, and all that, right? So again, workflow, set of actions, create the flow, and it gets executed when there is a commit, and we show the pipeline result. So now we have all this data in the platform. We have analytics engine in the platform, which runs some analytics on top of all this data. It's not about just pass or fail. Think of you set up a pipeline workflow, and you have your SAST tool like a code scan, image scan, or any kind of security tools that you use in your DevOps ecosystem. We collect data from every one of these tools, normalize the data, run analytics, and provide reports like this. Look at this. Maybe I'll go to our production environment so I can show some really good data. So look at this vulnerabilities found in some of our demo actions, demo component, and some production component is also there. So it out of all the components and pipelines we had in the last 1 month, in February alone, 8,400 times the workflows ran. And out of this ran, each workflow has multiple security tools configured. Out of all these tools, out of all those vulnerabilities that we found, we dedupe it, and we have currently 184 vulnerabilities. And now you can see which one is high and exactly where it happens. You can click and it can take you to that GitHub. So again, it's pretty powerful, right? So people talk about DevSecOps. We use a lot of tools in the pipeline, but usually it happens even, I used to do that. You put any tool in your pipeline, it generates it shows you thousands of vulnerabilities. You don't know what to do. And then slowly you remove the tool, right? Or just remove the gate or stop the gate, or, just ignore the results. So, but in this case, we show you the actionable data, which basically consolidate everything and tells you exactly this is where you have to focus on. right? So we have a lot of those widgets, security related widgets in this, and we have a software delivery activity. So in this case, we have 107 common. Think of you are working for a business unit, you are running a platform engineering team, you are developing multiple cloud native applications, some legacy applications, and across the board, you want to see the data. It shows you there are 107 repos, that 106 repos, but you have 107 components. And out of that, there are 1,300 workflows that are there in the system. 5,000 times we ran the workflows, and how many commits that happen, how many pull requests that happen, what is the code churn, code progression, how much time we deployed to staging, how unspecified means that we are deploying to environment that is not specified. These are all configuration things that we need to do. How many builds happen, how many failed, right? You can click and you can see the failure. You can see exactly which pipeline, which component it failed. And you can see how many deployment happens. And pretty much, deployment failure, what is your cycle time, average deployment time, all that you can get. And the flow metrics, DORA metrics, I'm not going to go into details, but these are all the industry standard DevOps metrics. DORA is more of a DevOps engineers related metrics. Flow metrics is more of a business metrics, which we calculate by interacting with your Jira, any project management tool that you have. So what I'm showing you is, it's a architecture itself is cloud native. It uses cloud native engine underneath it. And you can actually pretty much create any CI/CD pipelines, DevSecOps workflows for any applications, whether it's cloud native, on-prem, or in the app modernization journey, you are lifting and shifting, or you are containerizing your application, you're running some MLOps app, it doesn't matter, right? So you create that workflow by using the set of actions. So when you create those workflows, we run that workflows and we get all the data irrespective of what tools you use. We collect all of them, normalize the data, run analytics. We provide you a lot of engineering metrics and business level metrics for you to manage your entire software supply chain. That's our product. Done with the demo. Any questions?
Awesome. Yeah, this is fantastic. Like, it's amazing to see how much of the different metrics, because I remember, like, those days when we used to work with our continuous integration, we can't get any good quality metrics out of it, right? Like, now you can see that, like, in a whole set of DORA and flow metrics and other insights have built into this product. So which is really fantastic to see that, because this will definitely provide great insights for developers where things are going wrong. And also the one thing that I like about what you've shown demo is, like, the transparency that the organization brings with this kind of a metrics helps actually organization to make the right decisions to move forward and accelerate software delivery. I think that's the fantastic one. So one question, which Heidi already answered, but there is one more, is from Ying: how is CloudBees evolving to meet the challenges of new technologies and methodologies in DevSecOps? Sita,
yeah, so it's a good question. So as I mentioned, we heard from our customers, and we know DevOps, right? As I said, our Jenkins product has literally 3,000, 4,000. Heidi, if you know the exact number, please jump in. We have literally thousands of plugins. So our ecosystem is super rich, right? One of the most influential product that we have. So through that, we learn a lot from our customers. So that's why we developed this, and it's very, very extensible platform. That's why we wanted to be future ready. If you can see, we're not just talking about, you can create a pipeline for say cloud native applications, right? We are pretty much saying it doesn't matter what kind of applications you have. We can, you can actually have some database script that you want to make sure that it goes through the pipeline. You can do that here, right? So And the focus is irrespective of whatever you do in your software supply chain, we want to make sure it's well protected. That's very important, well protected. And we provide you very actionable insights on top of it. So if there is a new technology or new applications comes, as I said, we were pretty good with the legacy app, but like nobody before anybody came to the market, we were one of the, what do I say, most used tool for building and deploying the legacy applications. So now we are taking that to the next set of technologies. As the technology evolves, now they're like, we are hearing from customers, they're developing a lot of AI, ML applications and all that. Now we started focusing on ML ops. So that's how we evolve, right? We hear from customers and we start adding stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Sitaram. And thank you very much for CloudBees, and particularly Sitaram, thanks very much for joining late in the afternoon to you and Haiti. And it's an amazing to see, like, the demo and with the great insights. And Chris, if you can bring the slides, I just wanted to touch on this. A couple of things, folks, I want to talk about, like, as Andreas and Ahilan mentioned, there's an opportunity for you to get 2 printed copies and 3 ebooks, and also 25% off the list price on the packed site, like, if you've shopped the book. And also CloudBees, the next slide, where CloudBees is actually giving an opportunity for us to try this Cloud DevSecOps platform that Sitaram has demoed, and just it's a free, just sign up and then build your first pipeline. And then the next slide, where you have opportunity to submit a workflow and get a rad t-shirt. Git happens, and that's from CloudBees. And we would like to see from this region, like, folks, you take this opportunity, just play around with it. Like, I'm really amazed to see the flow metrics and Dora metrics and how these things are calculated. So I'll be definitely getting my hands dirty with that. And please, you to focus. And any other questions? I'm just checking. Okay, there is a note from Haiti. There are 2,000 or so plugins for Jenkins. And CloudBees,
2,000 plugins and above 100 plugins that we curate and we provide as part of, we call it CAP program, certified plugins.
Awesome.
So that way, again, it's like all the security patches and all that, we take care of it, right? Open source Jenkins has 2,000 plus plugins.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a great opportunity for you to get a book and also get a cool t-shirt, and then you can wear the t-shirt and read the book. That's an opportunity for you folks. And once again, thank you everyone for joining. And it's a very small group today, but highly appreciate everybody taking the time and joining us. And this recording will be soon available in YouTube, and then we will share the link through our meetup and then also community groups. And once again, see you next time. Thank you all. Cheers then. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you, BMK. Bye.